Dear students, in previous lecture we finished Legendre's function. In today's lecture I am starting Bessel's function with derivation of generating function as well as derivation of orthogonal property of Bessel's function. I will derive these two important features for Bessel's function in today's lecture. Now we start with generating function for GNX. GNX means Bessel's functions, or say mathematical symbol of Bessel's function. Here we have to prove that when n is a positive integer, Jnx will come as the coefficient of z power n if we expand this exponential function e power x by 2 into z minus 1 by z in ascending as well as descending powers of z. Let us see how it is possible to expand in both ascending descending, and then we also have to prove that Jnx will also come as coefficient of z power n minus n multiplied by minus 1 power n in the same expansion. And by doing or completing this derivation, we will also see the actual form of Jnx. Now we start the proceedings with e power x by 2 into z minus 1 by z as given there, and that exponential function or the power of that is broken into two parts, e power x z by 2 into e power minus x by 2 z. Now e power x z by 2 is expanded as simple expansion of exponential function 1 plus x z by 2 plus 1 by factorial 2 x z by 2 whole square plus up to infinite, but in between we are writing three terms containing factorial n plus 1, factorial n plus 2. You have to remember that we have to write these three terms in between, then plus up to infinite, for deriving that generating function easily into e power minus x by 2z. There we have e power minus x formulas of 1 minus x by 2z, alternative negative positive terms with that contain x by 2z, its whole square, its power 3, 4, etc. Then in between or up to infinite between, we are writing three terms containing again factorial n plus 1, factorial n plus 2. Now what about that statement ascending descending powers of z? You can see in this first bracket power of z is increasing continuously, z square z power n, that means ascending, and in that other bracket power of z is decreasing continuously. Why? Because it's 1 upon z means z power minus 1, then 1 upon z whole square means z power minus 2, etc. That means ascending powers and descending powers together. Now in next slide what we have to do, as written, we have to pick coefficient of z power n in this expansion. That will be the form of Jnx. How it is possible to pick coefficient of z power n in that larger multiplication? You can check that if that 1 of bracket 1, if we try to think over that 1 is multiplied with which particular term in second term to produce z power n, then we will find there is no term. That is, we have to increase our attention towards that term at least, and it is having z power n, and if that term is multiplied with 1 of second bracket, then coefficient of z power n can be picked. Then after, next term in first bracket is having z power n plus 1, and second term of second bracket is minus x by 2z, means 1 by z. So if that term of first bracket multiplied with minus x by 2 z of second bracket, what about power of z? Z power n plus 1 into 1 by z means z power n. And then next term of first bracket, that particular term with z power n plus 2 multiplied with next term, that is third term of second bracket, 1 upon z square. So z power n plus 2 and 1 upon z square multiplied together will produce z power n. So that is how we will find coefficients of z power n from different terms, and then we have to collect that. And in the same slide we also discuss that how we will collect coefficient of z power minus n from various places. As you can see, if that if that z power or 1 upon z power n in that second bracket, that means z power minus n, if it is multiplied with that 1, it will provide z power minus n. Then next term of second bracket, there we can see 1 upon z power n plus 1 means z power minus n minus 1 multiplied with that second term of first bracket, z power 1. So z power 1 into 1 upon z power n plus 1 will provide z power minus n. Similarly, third term of first bracket is having z power 2, and that next term of second bracket having 1 upon z power n plus 2 multiplied together will again provide z power minus n. So that is, we can pick z power minus n from these particular products, and we will collect these all coefficients that can be observed in next slide. That's what I was discussing in previous slide. Coefficient of z power n is now collected with a positive term, negative, positive, etc. And then what we are doing, we are simplifying these expressions. Say x by 2 power of 1 and n plus 1 means x by 2 power n plus 2 and x by 2 whole square and power n plus 2 collected together. Then after we are modifying it, that 1 is known as minus 1 power 0, minus 1 is minus 1 power 1, then plus 1 is minus 1 power 2. So that is minus 1 power increasing continuously as it is shown. Factorial n is written as gamma n plus 1. As we know, n is an integer, so it's possible to express like that. N is natural number, that's why it's possible. And gamma n plus 2 is written in place of factorial n plus 1, gamma n plus 3 in place of factorial n plus 2. Then factorial 1 means 1 is obviously multiplied with any term, then factorial 2 is there, etc. And that particular modification has created a summation convention, r equals to 0 to infinite minus 1 power r upon factorial r gamma n plus r plus 1 x by 2 whole power n plus 2r. So if we expand it, obviously we will get this particular expression up a series up to infinite, and it is known as jnx. So whenever jnx is required, we have to go through this form of jnx, and whenever its expanded form is required, then obviously substitute different values of r to get this form. And similarly, as it's written, the coefficient of z power minus n, as we discussed in previous slide, also collected and modified, and minus 1 power n is taken as common, and after minus 1 power n is taken as common, the terms inside that bracket again forming jnx. So it's coefficient of z power minus n in that initial product is minus 1 power n into jnx is the second part of the derivation. Now we talk over another important theoretical feature of Bessel's function known as orthogonality or orthogonal property of Bessel's function. Like we already learned about orthogonal property of Legendre's function in one of my previous lectures. Now the statement is, if alpha and beta are the roots of this equation jnx, we know the jnx form, equals to 0, then orthogonal property is in two parts, 0 to 1 x jn alpha x jn beta x dx is 0 if alpha and beta are different, and if alpha and beta are same, its value is half jn plus 1 whole square alpha. And for deriving this, for completing this derivation, we are starting with Bessel's differential equation. What about this differential equation? Say if we find series solution of this differential equation, then we can find j and x by this process also. That is, in last two slides we discussed generating function of j and x. That was one possible option to create j and x, and here I am saying that it is the other possible option, like we did discussed similar kind of things in Legendre's function chapter also, that the differential equation, its a series solution, will also provide j and x. That means j and x must satisfy this equation, and if j and x satisfies this equation, then it can easily be seen that these two expressions Jn alpha x and Jn beta x, we are assuming them as u and v respectively, will satisfy these equations. Means Jn alpha x will satisfy equation 6.18, which is looking like similar to that Bessel's equation, and Jn beta x will satisfy equation 6.19. You can see the difference of alpha and beta in these two equations also. How is it possible? You can easily check that. How? Say if you use this equation 6.18, u is equals to j n alpha x, substitute u double dash, that means 2 times derivative of u with respect to x, you will get, if you differentiate it twice, you will get alpha square into j n double dash alpha x. That means it will be termed as alpha square into x square, means alpha x whole square, and j n double dash alpha x, plus with similar, in similar manner you will find it will be termed as plus alpha x into j n dash alpha x, plus alpha square x square minus n square multiplied with u equals to 0. If you compare it with that Bessel's equation, then you will find in place of x everywhere we are finding alpha x, like here in place of x square it's alpha x whole square, in place of x it has become alpha x after substituting value of u dash, in place of x square it has become alpha x whole square after substituting value of u double dash, and there that equation was satisfied by with j n x, and here it is satisfied with j n alpha x. So alpha x in place of x in Jn also, as well as in differential equation also. That is the reason why u is satisfying this equation and v is satisfying that 6.19. So it was explanation of that. Now multiplying 6.18 by v by x and 6.19, that other equation, by u by x, and then by subtracting. Why we are doing this? Because of we want to cancel these minus n square u and minus n square v, because after multiplying by v by x it becomes minus n square u v by x, and that becomes minus n square u v by x again. So by subtracting it will be cancelled, and that by x is taken just to manage all the powers of x in numerator only. And finally, say we club these terms after multiplication and subtraction, these two together, these two together, and these two together with certain commas, we will get this equation, which is reducible to d by dx of x into this particular. If you differentiate this by multiplying rule, that is taking, it is a product of two functions x and into u dash v minus u v dash, if you differentiate you will get that expression, and that other expression is taken over other side. So it is important to remember that this equation is to be reduced in this form, and then we integrate both the sides of this equation with respect to x between limits 0 and 1, and that side is taken over left hand side, beta square minus alpha square is constant, so it's 0 to b as written there, integration x u v dx, and in right hand side as we are integrating, so d by dx can be eliminated in the process of integration. So we are remained with x into u dash v minus uv dash taken from 0 to 1, and at x equals to 0 it will become 0 because of that presence of x, and otherwise at x equals to 1 it is 1 into that expression at x equals to 1. So we are with that important equation 6.20, which will be utilized to get the further solution. How? As we know that u is j and alpha x, we assumed there. So u dash becomes its one time differentiation alpha j n dash alpha x, and v is j and beta x as per that assumption. So v dash is beta j n dash beta x. All these values are to be utilized there in equation 6.20, and if we substitute all these values in equation 6.20 at appropriate places, we will find next equation in next slide. That's what I was saying in the last step of previous slide. All values are substituted at appropriate places, that equation 6.21 is obtained. Now as alpha and beta were assumed as distinct roots of j and x equals to 0, so it is obvious to say j and alpha and j and beta both are 0. So if we substitute these two alpha and beta as distinct root, means alpha not equals to beta and j and alpha j and beta equals to 0 in right hand side of equation 6.21, it will become 0, it will become 0, so right hand side will become 0. That means that integral 0 to 1 x j and alpha x j and beta x dx is 0. So it is about completion of derivation of first part of orthogonal property when alpha and beta are different. If alpha and beta are same, what will happen? That is again 0 because of presence of those two equations. But if alpha is beta, then denominator also becomes 0. So right hand side of 6.21 becomes 0 upon 0, which is indeterminate form. That's why in order to evaluate or to simplify this equation 6.21 at alpha equals to beta, we are using limiting cases. How? We are saying that beta tends to alpha, the limit beta tends to alpha, and we are taking only one root. Alpha is the root of j and x equals to 0, so j and alpha equals to 0, that half part is taken and beta is approaching up to alpha. So we are using that limit over both the sides of that equation 6.21. Limit beta tends to alpha 0 to 1 x j and alpha x j and beta x dx. Same limit beta tends to alpha over right hand side, and as in that case we are saying that j and alpha is 0, so that j and alpha equals to 0 will make that term 0 at least. So we are remained with alpha j n dash alpha j n beta upon beta square minus alpha square with that limit beta tends to alpha. And if we check that limit beta tends to alpha is making j n beta equals to j n alpha, which is 0, so numerator 0, and beta tends to alpha means denominator 0, so 0 upon 0 form. That's why L'Hospital's rule can easily be applied for variable beta, differentiating separately in numerator and denominator, as we know about L'Hospital's rule. So it's j n dash beta in numerator, that is its differentiation with respect to beta, treating alpha as constant, and denominator differentiation with respect to beta is 2 beta minus 0 means 2 beta. And now we substitute beta tends to alpha, so right hand side becomes half alpha j n dash alpha upon 2 alpha, so alpha alpha will be cancelled with each other, and j n dash alpha into j n dash alpha means j n dash alpha whole square upon that 2. So it's about second part of orthogonal property. We are almost there, but we are using one very important equation to reach up to the derivation completely, that is equation 6.23, and that equation will be derived in next lecture because it is a recurrence relation for Bessel's function. Here you must remember this, that it's a recurrence relation which we will derive in next lecture, and using this recurrence relation of Bessel's function the derivation of orthogonal property will be completed. How? Say here we have j n alpha equals to 0, and for using that we are substituting x equals to alpha in this equation 6.23, means this recurrence relation we are using x equals to alpha there, it becomes alpha j n dash alpha equals to n j n alpha minus alpha j n plus 1 alpha, and Jn alpha can be substituted 0 for this second part, so Jn alpha 0. So we are remained with alpha Jn dash alpha equals to minus alpha Jn plus 1 alpha. Alpha is cancelled from both the sides, so it's simply Jn dash alpha is minus Jn plus 1 alpha. So that Jn dash alpha can be replaced by minus Jn plus 1 alpha, and its whole square means negative square will again become positive, and finally that right hand side becomes half Jn plus 1 whole square alpha, and left hand side for that beta tends to alpha already become 0 to 1 x Jn alpha x into Jn alpha x means Jn square alpha x. So it is about second part of orthogonal property. The derivation is completed.